Hello, I'm Antonio Mora. This is the News and News.com Day in Brief on April 17th at about 6:30 p.m. It was the best of reports. It was the worst of reports. But sticking to the Tale of Two Cities theme, the last 2 years were not the age of wisdom and were certainly the age of foolishness in almost too many ways to list. Switching from Charles Dickens to Elizabeth Barrett Browning, let's try and let me count the ways. 1. Most important in the just-released Mueller report, the Trump campaign did not collude with Russia. Specifically, the report says, quote, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. You might have missed that on the liberal cable news channels. 2. The Trump campaign was far from blameless when it came to Russia. Members of the campaign had scores of contacts with Russians, including some seriously questionable characters, and often lied about those contacts. Even though Mueller found it did not amount to a criminal conspiracy, the Trump campaign clearly encouraged Russian efforts that would help Trump. You might have missed that in conservative media. 3. Despite what Trump said for a long time, there is no doubt whatsoever that Russia meddled extensively in the 2016 election. Whether it made any difference will never be answered, and it's dumb to speculate about it. 4. Collusion and even treasonous behavior were the mantra from much of the media for the past 2 years. But if you were expecting a mea culpa or an apology, you didn't get it. Trump's constant claim of total exoneration and obstruction of justice charges doesn't even come close to resembling the truth. The report says, quote, the evidence we obtain about the president's actions and intent presents difficult issues that prevent us from conclusively determining that no criminal conduct occurred. 6. The report lists 10 instances investigated as potential obstruction by Trump, including the firing of FBI Director Jim Comey and his direct involvement in the misleading statements about the infamous Trump Tower meeting. 7. Despite the findings, Attorney General Barr will not prosecute Trump for obstruction. He said he found no corrupt intent. That might be generous to Trump because he was never interviewed by the special counsel in order to investigate intent. 8. Yes, as Trump supporters like to point out, the report confirms there was no underlying crime, but that doesn't automatically mean obstruction didn't take place. Remember, the House impeached Bill Clinton for obstruction, even though there was no underlying crime in his case either. 9. While the special counsel acknowledged that a sitting president cannot be indicted, the report ominously says, quote, Congress may apply the obstruction laws to the president's corrupt exercise of the powers of office, and that no person is above the law. It also says investigators would have exonerated Trump on obstruction if the facts had shown he clearly did not commit the crime. 10. Democrats in Congress will investigate further. They're like a dog with a bone. They won't let it go, but it's hard to blame them. Mueller has given them a bone that has a lot of meat on it. 11. Congress may investigate, but impeachment seems to be off the table. The number 2 Democrat in Congress, Steny Hoyer, said impeaching Trump was not worthwhile at this point after seeing the Mueller report. Even Adam Schiff, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, who has pursued Trump with Javerdian fervor, downplayed impeachment as not being in the national interest. 12. White House staff members may have saved Trump. The report says, quote, the president's efforts to influence the investigation were mostly unsuccessful, but that is largely because the persons who surrounded the president declined to carry out orders or accede to his requests. Put bluntly, they did not let Trump be Trump, and he should thank them for it. They shouldn't hold their breath waiting for gratitude because he's already pushed most of them out of the administration. 13. The drama about redactions was much ado about nothing. Reporters and pundits who obsessed about it wasted your time. I estimate that less than 5% of the report was redacted, and Barr will come to some agreement with Congress about sharing the information that was. 14. The drama about executive privilege was more sound and fury, signifying nothing. Did you see the outrage over the past 24 hours about how Trump was going to wield executive privilege to limit what we could see of the report? He did not assert privilege over even one line of the report. Embarrassing. Again, don't expect an apology from the media and politicians who misled you. 15. The narrative about how the White House was so helpful. Trump's promises about transparency and looking forward to an interview with Mueller? Hogwash. The president refused, and his written answers were deemed inadequate by the Mueller team. 16. What about Don Jr., Sessions, and Kushner? Mueller decided that they did skirt legality, or were close to illegality, but declined to prosecute them because they couldn't prove they had willfully violated the law. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse, but it is hard to believe that Don Jr. and Kushner were anything other than bumbling political neophytes. 17. You now don't have to rely on the Washington Post's fact checker to tell you Trump and his staff lie and do so often. The Mueller report gives you plenty of evidence. 18. The media and some politicians are demonizing Barr as a shill for Trump. His news conference this morning, before the report's released, did border on pro-Trump propaganda. Barr should not have done it, but whom did it hurt? Nobody, unless you somehow think that he undermined respect for the office of the Attorney General. Republicans would argue that Eric Holder did worse during the Obama years. 19. Was it a witch hunt? Obviously not. There was plenty of smoke, and it was essential to determine whether there was a fire. But it is clear that the special counsel team was hell-bent on finding and describing anything that portrayed Trump in a negative light. 20. It leaves out how the Russia narrative launched this investigation. And trust me, just as Democrats will push on obstruction, Republicans will push to investigate the investigators. 21. It was the best of reports. That's how Trump and his supporters will spin it, focusing on the collusion exoneration. Ironically, that's also how Democrats will spin it. As one said today, somewhat hyperbolically, it shows Trump as, quote, dishonest, unethical, immoral, and unpatriotic. 22. It was the worst of reports. Neither side will spin it that way, but it was. 2 years, tens of millions of dollars, a major distraction that prevented the president and Congress from doing the business of governing the country, and a process that further exacerbated the divisions, not only among our leaders, but among the American people. History books will not treat this period kindly. It should not. We have all the news, though, updated around the clock 7 days a week at newsandnews.com, where you'll find all you need to know in one place. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the right of your screen just below this video. Please follow us on Facebook at Real News and News, and follow me on Twitter at AMoraTV. I'll see you again tomorrow.